You're watching E.T.N. Entertainment-related new, entertainment-related discussion. Share and subscribe.
Hey guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. This is Rob. This video, we're going to do a little bit of catch up on wrestling since the last 2 weeks have been a little inconsistent due to my dental visits, having my wisdom tooth removed, then also having a root canal, both happening in 1 week. So my mouth has been in pretty traumatic situation in the last week. But I'm feeling a lot better now. Obviously I had the root canal procedure done 2 weeks ago, then the wisdom tooth was pulled last week. And it's still a little bit sore, but I feel much more comfortable to ramble on a microphone for however many minutes on end. This video, so since we haven't really been able to do any of the wrestling reviews and stuff like that, I kind of wanted to do a mini wrestling podcast, because also included in this video is going to be a Patreon request that I had done since 2 weeks ago. I just haven't had an opportunity to record it. And we're also going to review last night's Raw, and we're also going to review BackLash. We're going to try and keep it to 20 minutes. I'm not going to go match by match on both events. I'm just going to give my thoughts on both of them, and then we'll go from there. This will also probably be one of my last videos without a webcam. I know my last couple of videos have been with a webcam. That's because I've had it connected to my monitor, but I'm moving to a temporary spot in the house where I can do videos more traditionally with a green screen and all that. So I actually don't have my webcam connected because I have it connected elsewhere. So, but anyway, I want to start with the Patreon request. This came from Al Tinsley. And for those of you who don't know or haven't been here that long, Al Tinsley has been a great, even a content contributor here on the Nation and on the E.T.N channel. If you haven't, or some of you might remember the old fantasy battle, kaiju battle, the tournament, and all the animated sprites that were done. Well, Al Tinsley did all of that back in the day. If you haven't seen that stuff, go back into the channel. The videos are still there. It was a nice little tournament we did probably in 2015, and he was a big part of that. And I thank him to this day for doing that. It was such a great thing. So he requested this video, and he wanted me to fantasy book next year's Wrestlemania, which, woo, that is a tall tale, because things change so much in the wrestling industry. You know, what we think might happen now may change in the future due to maybe somebody turning heel, somebody turning face, people getting injured, new wrestlers coming into the fold and changing how the storylines go. So it's kind of tough to book. And even now, what I had written down 2 weeks ago, especially after BackLash, has changed. Because in my fantasy booking for next year's WrestleMania, I actually had the main event going down as Roman Reigns versus Samoa Joe for the Universal Championship. And I had Samoa Joe winning the Royal Rumble and then coming to WrestleMania to face Reigns, who would at that point be the Universal Champion. I got to change that now. And I got to change it on a whim. So I'm going to leave that part for last, the main event. And after seeing BackLash's main event, they're not going to do that. And there's no guarantee they would have anyway. It was just my prediction. But after seeing BackLash, no way. No way. And it's unfortunate too, because I was pretty excited to see that match going into BackLash because of what happened between them and how Joe had just been shooting hard on Reigns, or his promos on Reigns. But let's go into some of the other matches I had. So I have one big surprise match with a debut wrestler, but we'll get into that shortly. All right. So going off of this year's WrestleMania and all the matches, they have 14 matches. I think I have 12 on my card, or 13, but I'm not going to count through them now. I'll just go through them. But anyway, I do have a lot of matches similar to this year's WrestleMania in terms of not necessarily all one-on-ones. There were a lot of matches this year at WrestleMania that weren't necessarily a one-on-one match. They were either triple threat or four-mans or whatever. And understandably, the reason for that is because WWE has so many wrestlers on the roster. They try to squeeze them all in. I see that problem continuing with WrestleMania. So my first match had, Authors of Pain versus the Deleter of Worlds versus Breezango for the Raw Tag Team Championship, in the TLC match. That's what I had. Now, at this point, I don't know who's going to have the belts. I'm going to guess that AOP will probably have the belt at that point. But the reason I put Breezango in there is because of their upset win recently against the Bar. However, in the last couple of weeks, they seem to be once again downgraded to just a gimmick act. So I'm hopeful that they get a little bit more to do this year than just be a funny tag team, and a tag team that is actually pretty good in the ring when you let them go out there and perform. But we'll see. That was my 3-man tag, triple threat tag team for the for the tag team championship Raw tag titles TLC match. Then I had Rusev, The Miz, Rusev versus The Miz versus Jeff Hardy versus Andrade Almas for the U.S. title at WrestleMania. I think The Miz is going to be in the U.S. title picture. I want him to be in the WWE Championship picture, but he's on SmackDown right now, and that main event for the WWE title is so cluttered right now because you got to imagine AJ Styles is going to stay up there. Nakamura is going to stay up there. Daniel Bryan, hopefully at some point, will be up there. And maybe Randy Orton, maybe not, who knows. So that's at least 4 wrestlers right there. And maybe even, I was going to say at one point, maybe Big Cass, but considering the fact that he lost already to Bryan, that kind of crushes him already. So I don't see him in the main title fold, so to speak. Then I have 2 grudge matches. If you want to call them a grudge match, just 2 one-on-one matches, no titles at stake. I have The Undertaker versus Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre, I'm hoping at some point, I don't want him to stay with Ziggler forever. That's one of the reasons why I don't have McIntyre and Ziggler in the tag team title fold. I don't see McIntyre sticking with Ziggler very long. I'm hoping he gets a big push. Maybe not for the title right away, but I do think it would be good if he had some grudge matches with some of the higher end, veterans. And I think The Undertaker would be a great match for him at WrestleMania. So I'm going to say Drew McIntyre versus The Undertaker. That's fantasy booking. That's what I wish. Probably won't happen. Another grudge match I have, this is from SmackDown, because as it is right now, these 2 groups are on SmackDown. New Day versus Sanity. I think this is a good opportunity to have all 3 from each tag team or each faction face off against each other. You got 2 groups that are talented wrestlers, talented performers, and I think you should take advantage, considering that these tag teams are essentially 3-man tag teams with 1 sub. They're regular tag teams with a substitute. Put them both in the action. 3-on-3, New Day versus Sanity. Then I have another TLC match for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. This one I have The Bar versus the Bludgeon Brothers versus the Usos. I mean, this is probably your 3 best tag teams right now, and they're all on SmackDown. So to not have them face off against each other for the championship, to me, doesn't seem like a wise thing. I don't think you can keep any one of these tag teams off the card. So in other words, you can't have one tag team versus the other and not have the third involved in some way, shape, or form. So I think you definitely have another and I'm putting TLC because I like TLC. They don't really do that too much. I mean, I know they did it in Raw at WrestleMania when the Hardys made their comeback. So I'm hoping for another TLC match. And this one, again, The Bar versus the Bludgeon Brothers versus the Usos. Then for the women's Raw title, I have Ember Moon versus Ruby Riott. I think this is probably very possible. You know, I don't think Alexa Bliss is going to have the title for a while. She's already completely over, and she's probably one of the best heels in the company right now, both men and women. And Nia Jax right now, she's, I like Nia Jax a lot, but they really haven't been booking her or portraying her too good as a champion. And for that, I don't see her holding the belt very long. And once she loses it, I don't see her getting it back for a while. I don't see any other woman on Raw, outside of the normals that have already held it, like Natalya and Alexa Bliss. So I think this is going to be your match for the women's Raw title. It's going to be Ember Moon and Ruby Riott. I think Ruby Riott is primed for a big push. And, yeah, we'll see what happens. Now, this is my surprise match on the card. This is the card that, now, this is where I run into a little trouble because right now, I don't have Rollins on my WrestleMania, which is just absurd, but that's going to change in a minute. And this is going to segue into another video I'm going to do, but we'll get into that. But here's my surprise match for WrestleMania. And well, my surprise in terms of me booking it, but in my world, this wrestler would have already made his debut. But I'm going to have Finn Balor versus Kenny Omega for the Intercontinental Championship. Kenny Omega signed a 1-year contract, and it's supposed to be up, I think, before Royal Rumble. And I think that WWE will make a hard push. I think he makes his debut at Royal Rumble. He puts on a good show, lasts a little while. Within the Royal Rumble, begins a feud with Finn Balor, which leads to them facing each other at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental Championship. To me, that would just be such a good match. Such a good match. So yeah, definitely. Then I have grudge match again, Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. I think at this point, it's safe to say that these two might be feuding with each other. We've already seen little chinks in their armor, with their friendship, both on SmackDown and recently as BackLash on Sunday. Then I have, this is the only way I could fit these three into WrestleMania. This is the only way I could see this. And to me, this is not too far-fetched. If Lesnar is still active and still making appearances on wrestling by the time the next WrestleMania shows up, I have down here a triple threat match between Brock Lesnar, Bobby Lashley, and Strowman, which would be somewhat appealing because you have three big powerhouses just tossing each other around, breaking tables. But if Brock Lesnar is not around, or if he's in the UFC by this time doing some fights there, I could see a potential grudge match between Bobby Lashley and Strowman. They've been tag teaming a lot lately. I don't think that's going to last. You don't want to keep those two as a tag team. You want them competing in main event and in title matches. Because of the Roman Reigns push that I don't think is over, I don't think either one of them are going to be contending for the Universal Championship. So I'm leaning that it's probably going to be, in my fantasy booking, it will probably be more towards Lashley and Strowman. But I threw Brock Lesnar in there because wouldn't it be crazy to see a triple threat match between those three guys? Okay, finally, my main events, okay? We're going to start with the Fatal 4-Way WWE title. Now, this is something I also have to change on a whim. I think it'll probably more likely be a triple threat match. And I have Shinsuke Nakamura, who is currently in my fantasy booking the WWE champion, versus Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles, triple threat match. I originally had it down as a Fatal 4-Way, and I had put Big Cass in there, but I removed him after losing to Daniel Bryan on Sunday. I don't really see him competing at this point for the title because I don't know, they kind of beat on, I don't know. It's just, I'm not a Big Cass fan, and I know they want to push him, and that's one of the reasons I put him here. But after his loss on Sunday, that kind of says a lot. So that's my first main event. My second main event was originally going to be Samoa Joe, which I had as my Royal Rumble winner, versus Roman Reigns, the champion. I am going to keep Reigns in the main event. I'm going to remove Joe, and I'm going to put in Seth Rollins. I think at this point, I think they're kind of priming Seth Rollins to be the next Universal title. I think they're going to put him back there, title holder, I should say. Roman Reigns is going to get his title, but he's not going to hold it long, I don't think. I have to imagine that WWE at some point is just going to say, you know what? This guy's been taking such a beating for us. He's been ridiculed. We've just booked him so horribly. Let's give him his title run, all right? And then we'll give him a grand loss, to put over Seth Rollins, And then at that point, hopefully they just take Roman Reigns and kind of reinvent him. So yeah, I have Seth Rollins facing Roman Reigns at the main event at WrestleMania for the Universal Championship. And then finally, my third main event, and this is no surprise because this is the big rumor right now, is going to be Ronda Rousey, who I have down as the Royal Rumble winner for women, facing off against Charlotte Flair for her title. And I do think Charlotte Flair will get that title back on SmackDown at some point. Carmella having it right now is great. I kind of like that. But she's really their bread. I mean, she is, she is their big time female wrestler. She's kind of like the Hogan or the Cena or whatever of the women's division right now, if you will. Rousey would probably then take those reins from her at WrestleMania. So that's my booking. Definitely my booking. As far as who wins, I think AOP at this point would have the tag team championship and they'll retain. I think if they had a fatal four-way between Rusev, The Miz, Jeff Hardy, and Andrade Almas, I think it's going to come down to The Miz and Almas. And that's even if The Miz is in there, because I have a feeling he's another one that might be getting a big push for the title. And in fact, I might even be better off putting him in the fatal four-way for the WWE title and taking out Cass. So that's something you can flip around because The Miz is really, he was, first of all, that match and let's move into Backlash, if you will. The Miz and Seth Rollins put on a great show. That was the best match of the night. It was the only match worth watching. And the amount of pop that The Miz was getting, even to almost win the Intercontinental Championship, was amazing. I was surprised. I know he gets a big pop when he comes in. I know he gets a big pop when he does his Miz TV. But normally when he's in a match, because he's a heel, most of the time he always gets booed and the baby faces get the pop. I was actually very surprised to hear him getting the amount of cheers and the loud cheers that he was getting during the match, especially against Seth Rollins, who's probably one of the more popular wrestlers right now. So it wouldn't surprise me, going back to my fantasy booking, it wouldn't surprise me if, The Miz is in the title hunt at some point this year. And then in which case, I could definitely see myself putting him in the fatal four-way against Nakamura, Bryan, and Styles for the WWE title. And then maybe putting Big Cass in that that might be better. I probably would switch Big Cass into that fatal four-way for the US title and then put Miz in the fatal four-way for the WWE title. Or just not even book Cass altogether and just make it a triple threat between Rusev, Hardy, and Almas. You might even throw Orton in there because I don't have Orton on my card. That's what makes fantasy booking very difficult because there's so many superstars. You're bound to miss some of them. And some people might call me crazy for having Breezango at WrestleMania, but not Randy Orton. But again, fantasy booking. So a little of this is biased towards what I like. And I like Breezango. So, and I like The Miz. Okay. Backlash. Horrible pay-per-view. It's probably the worst one I've seen since I got back into watching wrestling. And I've repeated this many times. I got back into watching wrestling in 2016 after leaving it for a couple of years. I stopped watching it when the whole Benoit thing happened. Benoit was my favorite wrestler of all time. And, I've had many wrestlers that I liked. I've loved Hogan. I grew up a Hulkamaniac, loved The Warrior, but Chris Benoit was a wrestler that I literally followed from his time in Japan wrestling as the Pegasus Kid and all his grueling grudge matches with Jushin Thunder Liger, who was another one of my favorite wrestlers, all the way till he won the championship at WrestleMania, all the way until the horrible incident involving him and his family. And that was heartbreaking for me because at that time I was really into wrestling, like hardcore. And I would bleed Benoit. That was just my favorite wrestler. So when that happened, it was heartbreaking. I literally couldn't watch wrestling anymore. And from that time up until 2016, I didn't watch wrestling. But anyway, that's my little side story. So Backlash, since I got back into watching wrestling, is the worst pay-per-view I've ever seen. It was just horrendous. And it wasn't just the main event. It wasn't just the main event. And I'm not going to get into match because we're already rolling on 20 minutes and I still haven't even spoken about Raw. The only good match was Miz and Rollins. That's it. Even the Cass Daniel Bryan match was not impressive. And some of this is not the wrestler's fault. It's just whether it's instructional and what they want to do in the ring, or just, I don't know, bad performances. But when you have superstars like Charlotte Flair, Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns, you know, first of all, Cass tapping out to Daniel Bryan, as much as I love Daniel Bryan, I know he's big, everybody loves him, but you got to make some of these matches somewhat believable. You can't tell me that Daniel Bryan, being his size, is going to make Big Cass tap in a matter of moments. You know what I mean? This guy doesn't even put up a fight hardly. Charlotte Flair, you know, getting stuck in a chin lock to Carmella. Carmella should not have won that match via pinfall, because then it makes the win over Asuka look just fucking stupid. You know, she should not be winning that match by pinfall. I do agree she should keep the title, but have her win in a heelish way, by disqualification when the Iconics come out, or, you know, hitting her with the belt when the ref's not looking, some shit like that. A straight pin from a botched, or not a botch, or a bullshit knee injury that Charlotte Flair was selling. Not convinced. Samoa Joe, for all these weeks talking smash to Roman Reigns, starts off the match fantastically, putting his ass to a table, and then he spends half the match leaving him in chin locks and little mini submissions and what? I mean, Joe's match against Brock Lesnar was much more entertaining. He did a lot more in that match. This was just poor. And then the whole Elias skit with everybody coming out, you know, because we got to get every star on the show. I don't know who, look, this No Way Jose shit is just stupid. I've seen this guy wrestle maybe once since he's been here. All I've seen him do since he's been here is fucking shake his ass with a conga line full of retarded people that nobody recognizes. It's just like, what's the point of this? You know, it was just a horrible pay-per-view. It was just so bad. And, you know, just, I don't know. If that's what we have to look forward to with these dual branded pay-per-views going forward, I'm not looking forward to it. You know, I'm not good. Not good. And then just some of the other matches like Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley. People love Braun Strowman. People love Braun Strowman. This is the first time I've ever seen a match where Braun Strowman's in and he's not getting, like he's getting cheered, but not like he's been getting cheered the last 4 months. Because people have seen the match before. People have seen, you know, Strowman and Lashley team up against these two. Like, what's the point of a pay-per-view is to see matches that you normally wouldn't see, or to see the end result of an ongoing feud. All right. There was none of that here. And even the one feud between Roman and Samoa Joe had only been going on a couple of weeks. It's not like it's been ongoing, you know? So just a bad pay-per-view altogether. Bad. Then we get Raw. Now, Raw was okay. You know, we got the tournament starting for the Money in the Bank match. You know, Roman Reigns losing, I think that's fine, you know? The last thing we need is Roman Reigns winning Money in the Bank and then cashing in his Money in the Bank and then cashing it in, right? During a moment where, I mean, it doesn't matter what moment it would be. People would just be furious if he won the title with Money in the Bank. Be that as it may, he's going to get his title shot. He's going to get that title at some point. And you know what? If I was him, I would be bitching to management already for not having it, you know, because they're making him look like an idiot. The poor guy. I mean, I like Roman a lot. He is another one of my favorites. You know, I think he's got a great physique. He's got a great look. He's not strong on the mic. He's very athletic. He just needs to do more athletic moves other than punches and spears. But there's something about him that appeals to me. So, you know, surprisingly, and this is just a testament to just how good Seth Rollins is and why I think he should be the company's face. He had a match with Mojo Rawley that was actually pretty good. I was surprised. I mean, and it's not, I'm not knocking Mojo. I'm sure Mojo has great potential in his own right, but it actually turned out to be a better match than I expected. And a lot of that is due to Rollins. Rollins is good. He just puts on a good match with no matter who's in there with. And that's why you have to have him as your primary face of the company. The guy can put on a good match with anyone. I have never seen a bad Rollins match. And I've seen Rollins in the last, going on 2 years now, I've seen Rollins put in, and also even longer than that, because I have used the WWE Network to go back and visit all my old, all the stuff I missed in the last, 10 or so years. So I have never seen him in a bad match. This is the guy you need as the face of your company. And this is coming from a guy who is a Reigns fan. I do like Reigns. I would love for Reigns to be the face of the company, but let's just keep it real. Let's keep it real. Rollins is the man right now, and you got to push that. He needs to lose that Intercontinental title, and he needs to go for the Universal title. You need to give the title to Rollins. This needs to be your main event at WrestleMania. It'll be a great match between two people. Fans would actually care about this match because there's history behind Rollins and Reigns. There's a history there. Both a rival where Rollins was the heel when he turned on the Shield, and a very friendly, respectful rival between the two, who have also have teamed up, and then in the midst of teaming up have turned on each other, but give each other respectable grins, knowing, all right, we know you had to do that, or, it's every man for themselves in the case of the Royal Rumble. It would actually be a match that might actually help Roman Reigns. It might actually, even if he loses, because people, when Roman Reigns was with the Shield, people cheered him. Even when they had their little reunion, they still booed him, of course. I'm not saying nobody booed him, but he got a lot more cheers. I really think that's the way they need to go. And even if Reigns loses, that's an opportunity to put all the attention and the light on Seth Rollins, and then take that opportunity to reinvent Roman Reigns. Take him down to the higher mid card, let him fight for the Intercontinental Championship or whatever. Keep him down there for a little while. Build a story, build something with him, try to reinvent him, and then bring him back when people are finally forgotten. When you give people what they want, and then just give time for people to forget the fact that they hated Rollins, because a lot of people right now boo Rollins for what? Reigns for what? What are they booing for? A lot of people, let's do it. They do it for the memes at this point. There's really no reason to boo Reigns. If anything, you should feel bad for the fucking guy. The company's treating him like shit. He's being treated like shit by everybody. The company's treating him like shit. The fans treat him like shit. I really feel for the guy, genuinely. I really do. Outside of that, the Raw was okay. I don't know. Wrestling is so weird right now, like compared to so many years ago. There's some elements about it now that are just great. I love watching it now. I think the wrestlers are so athletic, and they really go out of their way to, you could just see the performances now are very different from even 10 years, especially different from back in the 80s and the 90s. I mean, the 80s was all punches and kicks. You didn't see half the shit these guys do now. But for some reason, were they do all the great performances and the great moves and all these high flying acrobatics and all that, what lacks now is that star power that the wrestlers used to have back in the day. I think some of that is because of the end of the kayfabe. Nothing's a secret anymore. So there's no build up. There's no anticipation. Everybody knows that it's choreographed and pre-planned. Not saying it's fake, because you can't fake half the shit these guys do, especially landing on a table or landing on the floor, taking bumps, even those punches that are thrown, we all know that they're timed. You know what I mean? They're not, if you see every punch in wrestling, there's no follow through. It's like they touch the face and their hand bounces back. There's no follow through on the punches, or their grazes, one of the reasons why these guys wear oil, so there's no tears in the skin, whatever hits they get just slides off their skin. It's kind of like boxing, when they put Vaseline on the boxer's face, so that way there's less likelihood of cuts. There's a rule, of course, in boxing that you can't put too much Vaseline. You can only apply a certain amount, That's to help the punches graze off the skin without cutting it. You know, the rubber and the skin, if your skin's dry, it'll just cut right open. But anyway, yeah, so, you know, Backlash was horrible. Raw wasn't much better. So we'll see what happens tonight on SmackDown. SmackDown's going to be the better show anyway right now. Raw is kind of them taking all these guys that they had on their roster that weren't doing anything and giving them an opportunity on Raw, because Raw's a 3-hour show. Where SmackDown, you don't have a lot of room. That's why SmackDown now tends to have the better roster. So anyway, that's going to be it. This is actually went 10 minutes longer than I wanted to. I kind of rambled in some areas. But Al, if you're listening to this, and I know you did, hope you liked the fantasy booking I did. I think it's pretty good. Hopefully some of these come to fruition. In particular, the Finn Balor versus Kenny Omega for the Intercontinental title. That would be fantastic. And we'll make sure to review SmackDown tomorrow. That'll be a little bit more detailed than my 2 reviews of Backlash and Raw. Just that, you know, because I've missed so much time the last 2 weeks with these mouth surgeries, and I haven't been able to really talk, or I've been in a lot of pain, I really had to play some catch up. So anyway, guys, that's it for this. This is Rob signing off for E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Take it easy.
Thank you for watching E.T.N. Click here to watch more content. Or you can click here to become an E.T.N. patron. Don't forget to leave a comment. Also, make sure you like and share this video. If you want to know when the next video is up, click the notification bell next to the subscribe button. And most of all, make sure to click that subscribe button for regular content.